Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming and willing to spend some time, I hope useful and inspirational together. I haven't been here for years. Situation with human rights and international relations is not better than it was, and maybe particular angle or reason is disrespect of religious freedom in general, and in some regions in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say or state a bit of frame for our current today's discussion and presentations. This frame is a message that religious freedom matters a lot or decisively, because religious freedom and religious tolerance is important for dignified life, for stability and even prosperity of countries, societies, nations. Pakistan is, and of course should be, one of the case studies, important country, but principles and messages are generally valid. We should see rather individual and community or collective stories than kind of statistics or theories. Pakistan is a big country with big potential. It's a nuclear power, but relatively poor state. European Union has a special relation to this country due to GSP Plus trade agreement, which is normally or basically oriented towards the least developed countries. More than 10. And Pakistan is by far the largest partner of European Union of this beneficial arrangement. Therefore, impact of sound and consequent European Union policy should and can be significant. And that's the line I want to stress, especially at the end of my presentation. Two important points, which I already started to speak about, or it was mentioned in the introduction. Freedom of religion or belief is very central human right. It's not the first, it's not the last. It's in the center of the whole list of the UDHR, Article 18. So the centrality is very important, and the content is very special. One of our problems, I suppose people in this room are like-minded on importance of human rights, is that we don't understand properly or don't interpret consequently freedom of religion or belief, because it's freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, and freedom of religion. It speaks about human rationality, morality, and spirituality, not in three, but in one being, with three dimensions. It is important for all, believers, non-believers, for people from A to Z, which means atheists up to Zoroastrians, all, not some, not majorities, not minorities, all. And it is actually a litmus test of all human rights, because if this internal, the deepest freedom or rights of human being, human person are not respected, I can assure you, and you know it, the other secondary, external rights will not be respected even more. Second is this message which I like, and I believe it's our time in the 21st century to dwell on, is human dignity. Because there is very close or deep, strong nexus between religious freedom and human dignity. As I said, Article 18 speaks about rationality, morality, and spirituality of each human person. And human dignity is basis of freedom, peace, justice, equality. It's precondition of dignified life. And of course, human dignity is a fact from which human duties and human rights are derived. Dignity is fact, and derivation is human rights and human duties. Don't forget this. There are duties which support rights. 5 times it is mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, including many constitutions, including Constitution of India, Pakistan, my country. So it shouldn't be a question or problem, but the answer. So the problem is that for many people, human dignity is not respected today in Pakistan. Reasons, I would say mostly state policies started or inherited from the time of junta, Zia-ul-Haq's government in Pakistan, military junta which came with the Islamization of state. To keep the power, you need ideology, not only guns. And for example, penal code was changed to the extreme example in the world today. Very exceptional penal code which has a mandatory death penalty or lifelong imprisonment, lifelong sentence for blasphemy. It's unique and mandatory. So of course it means a lot of damage for coexistence, cohabitation. I would say politically, I'm a former politician, the legacy of Zia-ul-Haq in Pakistan is today more influential than the legacy of Ali Jinnah, the founding father, the dreamer, visionary of the future Pakistan being a tolerant and pluralist country. Unfortunately, very unfortunately. I've seen personally being there several times that extremist movements are stronger than political parties. They are capable to paralyze the state and state authorities or authorities of law in the country. Justice system is functioning, but it's slow and weak, relatively weak. And education, which is so important as we cannot state enough, is marked by ideology, intolerance, supremacy of one religion, and serves or works against the inclusion of all. Madrasas are institutions of radicalization. Ahmadis, Christians, Hindus, and other minorities are under pressure, discrimination, sometimes existentially attacked on a daily basis. And of course, there are damages or attacks on places of worship, cultural heritage, and so on. Pakistan, regrettably, is very often in the leading group in negative rankings of the reports on human rights or religious freedom. Particularly, I can mention U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. They put Pakistan in the category of CPC, countries of particular concern, or ACN, Aid to Church in Need, or Open Doors, non-governmental reports. But I'm not negativist, I'm not skeptical. Positive change or difference is possible. I was there repeatedly, and I'm sure that this is not empty talk. When I was there, it was not about interference into domestic issues, but a dialogue of mature partners with respect, but with clear principles, mutually beneficial, on importance of win-win policies, working and even achieving some improvements together. GSP Plus was and remains very important and great instrument. My messages were principally in Pakistan too. Status quo is not enough. We cannot take it as granted and satisfaction. And second was, justice delayed is justice denied. It's a general principle. It's not only there, everywhere. And therefore, to modernize, mobilize, and work on justice for all is important. The case of Asia Bibi was exemplary. Lady was sentenced twice to death penalty, 9 years in the death row, her family under enormous attack or threats, taken care by another neighbors or caretaking family. In 2018-19, we've succeeded to save caretaking family with kids first, then Madame Bibi with her husband, and then another family, Muslim family, which helped me with interpretation in Punjab, because they were also under existential threat. They live abroad. Young man with his mom and 2 sisters. So this religious intolerance or hatred is damaging for all, not only for minorities, even for majorities. So I wanted to say, by mentioning of this case or reminding it that the European Union did life-saving work, and it can do it, it can help, it can really make a difference, even in countries like Pakistan. But it must be more principled, more systematic, and walk the talk. Ladies and gentlemen, silence of the European Commission in time of persecution and violent extremism is often painful. Financial assistance to detrimental religious education should be finished immediately. Promotion of societal segregation from early childhood is against human rights, peaceful coexistence, and social inclusion of minorities. Words, all these words and messages are known to the European Union and United Nations agencies, but deeds are missing or should follow. I was Education Commissioner, as was mentioned. My input to the current or next generation world 20 years ago was Erasmus Mundus, the best ever university exchange program, or university mobility program. Founding of the EIT, which has now 16 years, European Institute for Innovations and Technology, but also lifelong learning program. And the message of these programs was education unites, l'enseignement unit, Bildung verbindet. If it is correct, if it is not ideological, segregational. So this sort of education is needed in Pakistan for Pakistani, not for Europe, for people living and struggling there. They can be better off, they can be richer, they should be richer, not in exile or elsewhere in the world, but at home in Pakistan. So I call on the UN agencies, European Parliament and Commission to review education support, to review GSP Plus with Pakistan in summer 2025, with unquestionable commitment to human dignity of all and human rights for all, including religious and ethnic minorities. International community and Europe cannot become a de facto complices in long-term policies leading towards violation of human rights in Pakistan. Just opposite. We should be builder of more humane 21st century future. Thank you.
So,
good morning, everyone. Very happy to be with you here. My name is Konstantinos Bogdanos. I'm Greek, former member of the Greek Parliament, currently working as a councillor and a journalist in Brussels, also for Brussels Signal.eu and a conservative think tank in Brussels. I find it particularly useful that this conversation be held in a manner that is quite taboo-breaking. The reason being that although we live in a world where we tend to be extremely cautious and very, very sensitive on grounds of liberties, human rights, and also women's rights, there seems to be an application of double standards. I have very closely followed your address, Monsieur Fautré, and also what Mrs. Shafranova was very, very kind enough to share with us. And it all creates a very straightforward question. Why would we be so sensitive when it comes to the rights of some and so insensitive when it comes to the rights of others, to the extent that the European Union sponsored the violation of human rights in countries like Pakistan. I'm referring to, and this is an open question for whoever would like to take it. Monsieur Figeľ is very close to the inner workings of the European Union. Possibly I would like the honorable members of European Parliament to also respond to this. But how do we manage to deal with such double standards? So on the one hand, yes, we fight for religious liberty, and on the other hand, we sponsor madrasas in a country that suppresses religious rights and religious minorities. It's not about whether we are dealing with a Muslim country or not. Islam and Islamism are two completely different things. But should we, at any rate, decide that it is a quarter of a century into the 21st century, it's 2025, and as George Orwell put it in his Animal Farm, some animals do not have more rights than others. Some animals are not more equal than others.
Yeah.
I get it. So, do you feel we should realign our priorities? No matter whether a country is abroad, far away from us, culturally different, our standards, Western standards, liberal and democratic standards should be applied everywhere. Isn't it the case?
Yes.
Diagnosis is therapy is missing. That's our problem. Part of crisis we live in is because of lack of balance. Sir, Kalimera, you mentioned liberty and rights. We have and we should speak about liberty and responsibility, rights and duties. Without balance, it's impossible. We are like black riders, riding but not paying. My father paid for my freedom. Ján Figeľ, brother of my father, is buried on unknown place. So I feel responsibility for the sacrifices paid by others for our freedom. So what I want to say, the talk about rights, more rights, new rights, secondary rights, cause more and more mess. But the talk about fundamental rights, essential rights, universal rights should be in education everywhere, because then we can understand what we mean if we say UDHR is important. After 2 generations, we have now kids which understand rights. I know communities, they can list all rights. I am not so aware of legislation in my country. But they don't know any duty. Duty is for the state, for the mayor, for somebody else. So my answer is we need to get to balance, back to balance. Freedom without responsibility is suicidal, self-suicidal.